Bay Ridge, the place where you can live with a backyard. Originally, this was an area of homesteads and large estates, where wealthy landowners built large mansions in their favorite architectural style, and others had family farms. In the late 19th and early 20th century, however, the subway reached Bay Ridge, enabling working-class citizens to escape the crowded living conditions of Manhattan to come live here, where open space combined with close proximity to the workplaces made it the ideal location for raising a family. Throughout its history and transformation from farmland to family neighborhood, Bay Ridge has remained primarily a residential area, not heavily tied to the coastal industries of shipping as other areas of Brooklyn. Bay Ridge has shrunk in size from its earlier days as the Gowanus Expressway cut off the area now known as Sunset Park. Bay Ridge is now bounded by the 65th Street to the north and 7th Avenue to the east. Though the neighborhood looks quiet and unassuming, Bay Ridge houses an interesting collection of historically significant places and buildings. While the architecture of Bay Ridge may not be as imposing as other locations in New York City, the place you can visit speaks closely to the history of the people who lived here. Local stores and restaurants, some quite old, reflect the different cultures of the many immigrants who make up the local population. Our tour begins in the upper part of Bay Ridge at 3rd Avenue and Ovington Avenue. Here, restaurants and small markets bear witness to immigrant groups that have made their homes in Bay Ridge in previous and recent years.
Here on the corner we see a bagel and deli store, which used to be Cangiano's until last year, that is when it was replaced. This store was a traditional Italian market, and it was a link to part of Bay Ridge's immigrant past. If we go a little bit further down the block, we'll come up to Nordic Delicacies and the Family Store.
So this store is called Nordic Delicacies, and it's the relic of the times when Bay Ridge was highly populated with Norwegians. The store was founded in 1987 to preserve the memory of the Scandinavian population, and now it serves Scandinavians in the Bay Ridge and surrounding areas.
Next door we have the Family Store, which is an interesting juxtaposition of Middle Eastern with Nordic Scandinavian food. They serve Mediterranean cuisine and other sorts of things you would find across the street.
A 116-year-old Greek restaurant, and still has its original soda fountain.
They serve tons of different ice cream, Greek food, and interestingly enough, they're decorated for St. Patrick's today.
Yay!
So we visited Nordic Delicacies and walked inside and took a look around. There's a lot, as you can see, of Scandinavian food products, and they have some clothing too. Everything's really pretty. We asked Arlene, who works here, and I think her family owns this place, if she could speak a little bit about the neighborhood's Scandinavian Norwegian past and this store and its interactions.
Hello there. You wanted to find out a little bit about our store. We've been here 28 years soon, and when we opened here in 1987, the Norwegian community kind of was starting to dwindle. In the 50s and 60s, there was probably over 100,000 Norwegians in this neighborhood, and they have moved, and other neighbors have moved in, so it's very diverse now. We're basically the only Scandinavian store left in Bay Ridge, but we're very involved with the community, involved with teaching our neighbors about the Norwegian culture. We even have a Norwegian Day Parade, which is 62 years old. In Bay Ridge, so we're thriving really well.
So our next stop is the Barclay Cemetery, which is also known as the Revolutionary War Cemetery. So while much of the Bay Ridge's original homestead feel is kind of gone, the Barclay Cemetery remains as Brooklyn's only family plot. This little burial ground ties Bay Ridge to its early roots, and some even claim that the Barclays buried here were Revolutionary War veterans who fought in the Battle of Brooklyn. The Barclays lived in Bay Ridge well into the 20th century, and the last burial took place in 1848, and the cemetery remains as a link to the old Bay Ridge.
If you visit the 69th Street Pier today, you'll find this peaceful, scenic dock with all people fishing, jogging, biking. Today it's rather empty because it's freezing cold. Now, if you look in the distance, you can see the Verrazano Bridge. And that's the reason that this dock is so peaceful and quiet today. It used to house a ferry between Staten Island and Brooklyn. Staten Island you can see in the distance over here, and Brooklyn where we are now, but the bridge got rid of the necessity for this, and the dock fell into disrepair after the bridge was built. However, it's since been restored as the American Veterans Memorial Pier, and it's an ideal place to watch fireworks in the Hudson Bay on July 4th and just biking or fishing.
So this quaint mansion, according to Google's search results, is one of the most important sites in Bay Ridge. It is famous through its architecture and art world as the most extreme example in New York City of the Arts and Crafts School of Architecture, a playful, ornate design philosophy championed by Oscar Wilde, among others. Neighborhood kids know this place simply as the Gingerbread House or the Mushroom House. It's more importantly called the Howard E. and Jesse Jones House, after original owners built it in the 1916 and 1917 with architect J. Sarsfield Kennedy. Though it has really changed over time, this unusual site is well known by everyone in this neighborhood. Its otherness generated strange stories among kids in the neighborhood. Some even said that a gorilla was kept chained inside. For what reasons, we have no idea. This is just one of the many grand mansions that wealthy men built in the Shore Road area before the influx of newer immigrants in the early 20th century brought working class families to more affordable housing.
Across the street we see the athletic grounds of Fort Hamilton High School. Now, this land used to be the site of the Crescent Athletic Club. Fort Hamilton High School has become a sort of neighborhood institution with a lot of Brooklyn's favorite sons, like former borough president Marty Markowitz, attending this high school, which is known for its athletic prowess, especially their football team, which always beat my high school's football team from Brooklyn Tech. Anyway, this school, interestingly enough, used to be the site of an athletic club where wealthy men would gather. Oh, here's some students now. And play football on the grounds where high schoolers now play football. In 1914, you would have seen a boathouse opposite the school on the shore where people would have elaborate parties, go yachting. Now, in 1931, the club had some financial difficulties and they had to sell this land, and they also moved to Long Island so that they could have more space for golf. In 1941, the city, having purchased this spot from the Crescent Club, constructed this school, which was also used during some wars as a barracks or a place for soldiers to stay. If we turn around here, you can see the shoreline is directly opposite the school with the Verrazano Bridge in the distance over there. This is where you would have seen a boathouse back in 1940. Contrasting with the public Fort Hamilton High School is the very pricey Fonbon Hall. This former villa was originally a gift from the crooked millionaire Diamond Jim Brady of the Gilded Age to actress Lillian Russell, who had a long-time relationship with him, it is said, due to their shared enormous appetites and passion for diamonds. The original villa remains as a reminder of a Gilded Age lifestyle that was on its way out by 1914 with the advent of public subways in Bay Ridge. In 1937, the villa was bought by the Sisters of St. Joseph and transformed into a girls' Catholic school. As we come to the end of Shore Road Park, we see the John Paul Jones Park, known by locals as Cannonball Park. In this site, the British launched their attack on Brooklyn during the Battle of Brooklyn during the Revolutionary War. The close proximity of this park to Fort Hamilton has caused it to become a sort of war memorial space. Here you can see one of the world's last remaining Rodman guns, which was a cannon capable of firing 1,040-pound projectiles a distance over 4.5 miles. This park also houses an obelisk, which is a memorial to the U.S. naval contribution to World War I. This park, Shore Road Park, and other parks like Owl's Head Park are relics of the time when Bay Ridge was a place of wide open spaces and fields used for agriculture and wealthy estates. Just a little past Cannonball Park is St. John's Episcopal Church, which was constructed by soldiers at Fort Hamilton in 1834. Since its construction, it has served as a place of worship for many military generals, including Robert E. Lee and Stonewall Jackson after the Mexican War. As you have noticed, Bay Ridge's inhabitants may have fluctuated much over the years, but there are still many gems of old architecture. This is thanks in part to the many neighborhood preservation societies and the active community here in Bay Ridge. Across the street from Church of the Generals and close to Cannonball Park is the Verrazano Bridge. Constructed in 1964 under the direction of Robert Moses, the Verrazano Narrows Bridge is a testament to how a single person can bring progress but also great detriment to a neighborhood. The bridge connects Brooklyn to Staten Island and supplanted the ferry that landed at the previously seen 69th Street Pier. If you visited Staten Island in 1914 before this bridge, it was sort of a rural backwater. Not many people lived there, and it was just an open space. The construction of this bridge generated quite a bit of controversy, as it would cut through several areas and cause the demolishment of many homes. Bay Ridge residents were unsuccessful in standing up for their homes against Mayor LaGuardia and Robert Moses, but the uprising caused by residents' outrage at this project and other developments such as the Bay Ridge Towers gave birth to the Bay Ridge Community Board, an association which still today serves as a voice for the community in issues of building zones and other concerns. If you visited Bay Ridge in 1914, you would be witness to a neighborhood in transition. Old moneyed estates were being transformed into affordable housing, a step up from the crowded tenements of Manhattan, and a place where working-class citizens could raise their families with their own homes and backyards. Since that transformation, the neighborhood has remained economically about the same, still inhabited by immigrants and the children of immigrants, though their countries of origin have changed. Bay Ridge is a place where the past is preserved and celebrated, even where the faces of residents are constantly changing.